My name is Sophia Anderson. I'm 28 years old, and I started my tech company in a cramped dorm room when everyone told me to be realistic. Today, standing at my graduation with my family watching, I received a text from my father that broke my heart. But what followed changed everything. 4 years of sleepless nights, rejection, and sacrifice brought me here, to the moment my phone buzzed twice within minutes. The first message crushed me. The second one made history. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to follow this journey of turning rejection into success, the sweetest kind of revenge. Growing up as the only daughter with 2 older brothers in the Anderson household meant constantly being overlooked. My father, Harold Anderson, built his construction supply business in the 1980s and took pride in being self-made. His world revolved around traditional values. For him, business was for men. Women belonged in support roles. From as early as I can remember, he groomed my brothers, James and Thomas, to take over the company. Weekends meant office visits, lessons on inventory, margins, and leadership. At age 8, when I asked to join, my father chuckled, patted my head, and said, "This is boring, princess. Why not help your mother with dinner?" My mother, Elizabeth, was the perfect corporate wife, hosting dinners, keeping our home flawless, and never contradicting my father publicly. In private, she'd whisper words of encouragement, always followed by, "Don't let your father hear about it." She loved me, I knew that, but she had accepted her role and expected me to accept mine too. Even without support, I showed early talent in math and computer science. In 3rd grade, I won a statewide math competition, even beating students older than me. My father attended but dismissed it afterward as cute. When my teacher suggested advanced classes, he politely thanked her and never mentioned it again. By high school, I had taught myself coding through online tutorials and even built a scheduling app that my school adopted to manage extracurriculars. The local newspaper published a story about it. My father just shrugged and said, "Computers are a phase. Real business happens face-to-face." At 16, my brothers got new cars. I got a laptop, meant only for schoolwork. He didn't realize I'd use it to start building what would later become Secure Connect, my company specializing in encrypted business communication software. When it was time for college applications, I secretly applied to MIT with help from my guidance counselor. When the acceptance letter came, my mom was proud but worried about my father's reaction. At dinner, I announced the news. My father scoffed, "Why waste 4 years? Real-life experience matters more. Technology is smoke and mirrors. Look at how many businesses are failing." "It's the top engineering school in the country," I replied quietly. "Engineering isn't for girls, Sophia. You'll struggle, give up, and then what?" "I won't drop out," I promised. After weeks of arguments, he reluctantly agreed to pay for my first year, with strict conditions. I had to maintain a 4.0 GPA, work part-time to cover my own expenses, and call home weekly to report progress. 1 year, he warned, then we'll see. The night before I left for Cambridge, my mother came into my room. "Your father means well," she said gently, sitting on the edge of my bed. "He just wants to shield you from disappointment." "He doesn't believe in me," I replied, folding the last of my clothes into my suitcase. "He doesn't understand you," she corrected softly. "Maybe one day you'll show him." I zipped my suitcase shut with resolve. "I'll prove it. That's a promise." The next morning, as I boarded my flight to Boston, my father's last words echoed in my head. "When this tech dream falls apart, there'll always be a receptionist spot at Anderson Building Supply." Staring out the airplane window at my fading hometown, I made a silent vow. I would never work for my father's company. I would build something of my own, something so successful that even Harold Anderson couldn't dismiss it. At the time, I had no idea how much that promise would define my future. MIT exceeded every expectation. Thrilling, inspiring, and tougher than I'd imagined. During orientation, I was surrounded by brilliant minds from around the world. For the first time, no one questioned my place in tech because I was a woman. The only doubt was whether I could keep up. The pace was unrelenting. I juggled a full aide, load of computer science and business courses while working 20 hours a week at the campus bookstore to uphold my deal with my father. My roommate, Natalie Kim, rarely saw me awake. My days began at work, ended with studying until 2 a.m., and left me only a few hours of sleep before repeating the cycle. "You're going to burn out," Natalie warned one night after finding me asleep at my desk. "I can't slow down," I muttered, splashing cold water on my face. "My dad's only covering 1 year. After that, I need scholarships, or I'm out." By midterms, I was exhausted but excelling academically. I earned the top grade in my algorithms class, catching the attention of Professor Alan Blackwell, who would later become my greatest mentor. "Anderson," he called after class, "that encryption idea you shared, have you thought about its commercial potential?" I hadn't. Survival was my only focus. But he saw what I had overlooked. "Banks and financial firms would pay well for that kind of security," he said. "Come by my office hours. Let's talk." That conversation shifted everything. Professor Blackwell helped me refine my encryption algorithm and connected me with graduate students solving similar problems. For the first time, I began looking beyond grades and survival. By second semester, I had formed a team of like-minded students: Zach Torres, a talented coder with quantum computing expertise; Diana Chen, brilliant at user experience design; and Marcus Washington, whose business insight balanced my technical skills. We started meeting in my dorm room on Sunday afternoons, building what would become Secure Connect. Our concept was simple but ambitious: an encryption system for business communication that combined strong security with user-friendliness. Most security software sacrifices ease of use for protection, I explained. We can create one that delivers both. Every Sunday night, my father called as usual. His questions never changed. "How are your grades?" "All A's so far," I'd answer. "And your job?" "Still working, picking up more hours over the holidays." "Good. So what's the plan when the year ends?" I never mentioned the startup. I knew exactly how he'd react. Another lecture about chasing illusions. By April of my freshman year, we had a working prototype. Professor Blackwell urged us to enter the university's annual business competition, which offered $50,000 in seed funding to the winner. "We're not ready," I protested. "You're more ready than you think," he insisted. "The judges need to see it." The night before the competition, I called my mother instead of my father. "I might have a chance to win some funding tomorrow," I said carefully, "for a business idea." "That's wonderful, honey," she replied. "What kind of business?" I explained our encryption software as simply as I could. "Your father always says business is about solving problems," she said thoughtfully. "And it sounds like you're solving an important one." "Do you think he'd be proud?" I asked quietly. She paused. "I think he'd be surprised," she admitted. "But yes, one day he'll be proud. I already am." The next day, we won first place and $50,000 in seed funding. The press release featured a photo of our team holding an oversized check, which I sent to my parents. Hours later, my father replied, "Playing entrepreneur on the university's dime, I see. Focus on your grades." That summer, instead of returning home, I stayed in Cambridge to work on Secure Connect. The seed money let us rent a tiny office near campus and cover minimal stipends. I called my father to tell him I wouldn't need his financial support for sophomore year. "So, you're dropping out?" he asked, sounding almost pleased. "No," I explained. "I earned an academic scholarship. I'll continue my studies while building the business." Silence followed. Then he said, "Businesses need customers, Sophia. Revenue. Who's buying your software?" I had no answer. We had no customers yet. His parting words, "At least, you're not wasting my money anymore." Sophomore year, I went part-time in classes and devoted most of my energy to Secure Connect. We worked 18-hour days improving our product and pitching to clients, only to be rejected repeatedly. "No one trusts security software from college kids," Marcus remarked after our 15th failed attempt. Then we stopped looking like college kids, I decided. We rebranded, created professional materials, and refined our pitch until it was second nature. Finally, a small financial advisory firm took a chance on us. The first $10,000 payment felt monumental. I treated the team to pizza. I considered calling my dad, but decided to wait until our success was undeniable. That first client led to 5 more, then a dozen. By the end of sophomore year, Secure Connect generated enough revenue to hire 2 developers and move into a real office. I wasn't just a student anymore, I was a CEO. But early growth brought new problems. One summer, a financial client suffered a data breach, not because of our software, but because they ignored our installation guidelines. Still, they blamed us publicly and threatened legal action. Can't afford a lawsuit, Marcus warned. We had only 3 months of runway left. I spent 48 sleepless hours assisting the client while defending our reputation. We needed a lawyer, and to afford one, we needed investors. We had been bootstrapping, with winnings and revenue, but legal fees would crush us. So I pitched to every VC firm in Boston. The feedback was nearly identical. Good tech, but you lack experience. Come back with a seasoned CEO. Maybe add a male co-founder for credibility. After one particularly harsh rejection, I called my mother from a park bench, something I rarely did when vulnerable. Maybe Dad was right. Maybe I'm not cut out for this. Her reply was firm. Your father has been wrong before. Don't prove him right by quitting. The next day, I pitched to Catherine Bailey at Artemis Ventures, one of the few female-led firms in Boston. She listened carefully, asked smart questions, and finally said, "You remind me of myself 20 years ago. Brilliant, determined, and underestimated. I'll invest $500,000 for 10% and connect you with the best tech lawyer I know." I nearly cried with relief. Then she added, "Promise me this. When you succeed, and you will, you'll remember what it felt like to be dismissed and help the next young woman with a great idea." "I promise," I said, meaning every word. Catherine's investment saved us. We settled with the client at a fraction of their demand, learned to document everything, and improved onboarding. Catherine became more than an investor, she was a mentor. She introduced us to clients, refined our strategy, and coached me as a leader. By junior year's end, Secure Connect had 15 employees in a converted warehouse at Kendall Square. We had steady revenue, though still not profitable after covering costs. Each hire brought pride but also pressure. What if I failed them? What if Dad was right? Stress began to take a toll. Insomnia, migraines, weight loss. My grades slipped, and my advisor urged me to choose the company or my degree. I chose the company but stayed part-time, unwilling to drop out and give my father that satisfaction. Our breakthrough came senior year when we improved our encryption algorithm, faster, stronger, more secure. Client demand exploded. Revenue tripled in 2 months. We moved offices again and hired experienced professionals. One key hire was Jennifer Lawrence, a 52-year-old CFO who had led 2 startups to acquisition. She quickly noticed our weaknesses. "You're growing too fast without financial controls. Let's build a sustainable business." Under her guidance, we restructured pricing, improved cash flow, and planned long-term. For the first time, I had a leadership team beyond college friends. When we landed our first Fortune 500 client, I finally called my father. "Dad, we just signed a 7-figure deal with Allied Financial." He paused, then said, "That's impressive. But tech companies come and go. Are you profitable?" We weren't yet, reinvesting every dollar into growth. He sighed. "That's what I thought. Don't let this distract you from finishing your degree. You'll need something when the bubble bursts." I hung up deflated. Would anything ever make him believe? That night, Jennifer overheard my frustration. "Your father doesn't understand, does he?" she said. "No," I admitted. Neither did mine. He thought women belonged in teaching or nursing. He never saw me at Goldman Sachs. I stopped seeking his approval. Instead, I earned his respect. Those aren't the same thing. Her words stayed with me. I stopped chasing pride and aimed for undeniable success. Success that demanded respect. Over. The next 18 months, Secure Connect grew from 40 to 120 employees. We moved into a glass office building downtown, our logo shining on the entrance. Walking in each morning filled me with pride and fear. So many livelihoods depended on me. Jennifer's mentorship was invaluable. She pushed me to raise a Series A Despite my memories of rejection, Secure Connect was different now. Real clients, proven tech, and revenue. Catherine led the round, joined by major firms. We raised $12 million at a $60 million valuation. TechCrunch ran a feature, Secure Connect, the female-founded security startup shaking up enterprise. My mother sent the article with a note, "So proud of you, honey." My father stayed silent, though my brother James later said Dad had seen it. He asked if it was hype. I told him to read the article and decide for himself. For what it's worth, I think you're doing something amazing. Tom does too, even if he won't say it to Dad. My brothers had chosen the family business after college, while I had chosen risk. I often wondered if they envied my freedom, or resented it. With Series A secured, we expanded aggressively into new markets. The cost was high, personally and professionally, but Secure Connect was no longer just a student startup. I hadn't taken a vacation in 3 years. Most of my meals were takeout eaten at my desk. I even ended a 6-month relationship because I could only spare 1 evening a week. "You need to delegate more," Jennifer said after finding me asleep at my desk at 2 a.m. "This company cannot depend on you alone." "I'm fine," I replied, though the circles under my eyes said otherwise. "You're burning out," she countered. "That helps no one. Build a leadership team you trust. Let them share the load." Reluctantly, I began. I hired a chief technology officer to lead engineering and a chief operating officer to handle daily operations. Handing over control was difficult, but it was necessary for my health and for the company's growth. As Secure Connect gained recognition, competitors took notice. Larger firms started developing similar products. Some tried luring away our engineers with double salaries, while others spread doubts about our technology's reliability. "This is actually a good sign," Catherine, one of my advisors, reassured me. "They wouldn't bother if you weren't a threat." One rival went further, attempting to hack our systems to steal our code. The irony of a security company being targeted wasn't lost on me, but our defenses held. We traced the attack and issued a cease and desist letter that ended it. Through it all, I remained a part-time student at MIT, determined to complete my degree. After 5 years of taking 1 or 2 courses each semester, I had lost track of my progress. My father had assumed I'd dropped out. That spring, my academic advisor called me in. "You have enough credits to graduate this May," she said, smiling. "And with honors. The committee is even considering you for the commencement speech. Your story is remarkable, building a multi-million-dollar company while finishing your degree." I was stunned. "I'm not sure I'll have time to write a speech," I admitted. "Think about it. It would inspire other young entrepreneurs," she urged. That evening, I told my mother, "I'm graduating in May, with honors." Her voice filled with joy. "We'll all be there. Your father, too." "He doesn't have to come," I said quickly. "He's your father. Of course he'll come." Her tone left no room for debate. I felt conflicted. Part of me wanted him to see my success, to finally acknowledge it. Another part dreaded his likely dismissal. Meanwhile, Secure Connect faced its biggest decision yet. Major tech companies were making acquisition offers, while our board debated an IPO. "The IPO market is strong," Jennifer explained. "With our growth and client base, we could secure a high valuation." "But are we ready?" I asked. "We'll need flawless financials and a stronger board," she said. "But yes, I believe we are." The timing was surreal. IPO preparations would coincide with my graduation, 2 milestones at once. We worked with banks to prepare our S-1 filing. The process was exhausting. Lawyers, auditors, bankers, endless meetings. The week before graduation, we filed confidentially with the SEC. Only the board and executive team knew. I declined the speech opportunity, lacking time. I'd graduate quietly. Just another student walking across the stage, though. I was also running a company worth hundreds of millions. My family was flying in the day before. It would be the first time I'd seen my father in 2 years. I arranged for them to stay at the Four Seasons, a small way to show how far I had come. The night before graduation, Jennifer called. "The bankers want to price the IPO higher. Demand is incredible. We may hit $1 billion valuation on day 1. 1 billion. The word felt unreal. When will we know for sure? I asked. The pricing committee meets tomorrow morning. You'll have confirmation by 9:30. My ceremony started at 10. The next morning, I woke early, too restless to sleep. I checked my phone, no update yet. A minor SEC comment came in, but nothing that would delay us. I dressed simply, a black dress beneath my gown. After 5 years of balancing study and entrepreneurship, the sight of the cap and gown felt unreal. At 7:15, Jennifer called. Preliminary price, $42 a share. That's just over $1 billion market. Cap. My hands shook. A unicorn IPO, she said. Rare, Sophia. Very rare. When will it be final? I asked. Within the hour. I'll call you. I agreed to keep my phone on vibrate during the ceremony. The thought of validation crossed my mind, but I reminded myself, Secure Connect wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about creating something meaningful, protecting people's privacy. By 8:30, I walked to campus. The familiar MIT paths helped calm me. At the gathering spot, I saw my mother first, elegant in blue. My brothers, James and Thomas, were in suits. Then my father, older, grayer, stern as ever. Congratulations, honey, my mother said, hugging me tightly. My brothers followed with quick embraces. Then I stood before my father, unsure of the right greeting after so long. He extended his hand. Congratulations on completing your degree, Sophia. Not a hug, not even, I'm proud of you. Just recognition for completing the task. I shook his hand, a familiar disappointment settling in my chest. Thank you for coming. Your mother insisted, he added, as though I might otherwise question his presence. We exchanged stiff small talk while nearby families greeted each other with warmth. My mother kept the silence filled, asking about the ceremony, then about plans for a celebratory lunch. I made reservations at Harvest, I said, naming one of Cambridge's top restaurants. My father raised an eyebrow. Business must be going well. It is, I replied, unwilling to elaborate. The IPO announcement would speak for itself soon enough. An announcement instructed graduates to line up by school and department. I needed to join the engineering procession. I have to go, I told them. Family seating is in Section C. I'll see you afterward. My mother hugged me tightly. We'll be watching for you. As I walked away, I heard my father mutter, to my brothers, at least she finished the degree. She'll need it when this tech bubble bursts. Some things never changed. I joined the line of engineering graduates, adjusting my cap and checking that my phone was on vibrate inside the pocket I had sewn into my dress for today. Around me, classmates laughed, snapped selfies, and celebrated. I stood apart, my thoughts split between the ceremony ahead and the IPO pricing being finalized across town. At 9:45, the procession entered the grand auditorium. From my place in line, I could see Section C, my mother's blue outfit easy to spot, my father's rigid posture beside her. At 9:52, my phone buzzed. A message from Jennifer. Pricing confirmed at $44 per share. Final valuation, $1.1 billion. Press release in 15 minutes. Congratulations, Sophia. You did it. $1.1 billion. My knees weakened. The company I founded had just reached unicorn status. My father was about to find out. I moved forward on autopilot as speeches about achievement, and the future filled the hall. I barely heard them, my mind racing with the implications. At 10:15, another vibration. This time the press release had gone out. Within minutes, the news would spread. Secure Connect, a female-founded unicorn. Soon, my father would know. As my row waited for names to be called, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from employees, investors, mentors. I ignored them all, focusing on keeping my composure. At 10:32, a different message appeared, this one from my father. Do not expect any help from me going forward. You are on your own. The words landed like a physical blow. On a day when I was graduating with honors and taking my company public at $1 billion valuation, his response was rejection. Tears threatened, but I held them back. I would not break, not because of him. Then my name echoed across the hall. Sophia Marie Anderson, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science and Engineering, with honors. On unsteady legs, I walked across the stage. The dean shook my hand, gave me my diploma. I smiled for the photographer, though inside I felt hollow from my father's message. Stepping off stage, my phone buzzed again. Jennifer calling. I answered. Quietly, turning slightly away. Congratulations, Sophia. The stock is already climbing in private placement. The IPO is a massive success. We've hit $1 billion market cap. CNBC and Bloomberg are asking for interviews. Her voice carried, drawing glances from nearby faculty and students. That's incredible news, I replied, louder than I meant to. $1 billion IPO. I can hardly believe it. The whisper spread instantly. $1 billion IPO. CEO, I looked toward the family seating area. My father's face was pale, his phone in hand, likely showing the same breaking news. Minutes after telling me I was on my own, he discovered his helpless daughter was now CEO of $1 billion public company. Our eyes met. For the first time in my life, his gaze held something unfamiliar. Not pride, not love, but respect. The rest of the ceremony blurred by. Around me, classmates whispered. Some professors approached to congratulate me as the news spread. My first mentor, Professor Blackwell, caught my eye and gave me a proud thumbs up. Outside, I found my mother waving excitedly, my brothers beside her, both impressed and uneasy. My father stood slightly apart, unreadable, still gripping his phone. My mother embraced me. Sophia, your company is everywhere in the news. Why didn't you tell us? The timing was confidential until this morning, I explained. We couldn't disclose details before the official announcement. My brothers offered awkward congratulations. One asked about the stock price. Another, whether I was now a billionaire. The company is valued at over $1 billion, I clarified. My stake is significant, but not majority. On paper, yes, I'm worth tens of millions. Through it all, my father stayed silent. Finally, he stepped forward. You kept this from us deliberately, he said accusingly. The SEC has strict rules about disclosure, I replied evenly. And besides, would you have believed me? Your text came through just before they called my name. I held up my phone. Do not expect any help from me going forward. You are on your own. Interesting timing, Dad. My mother gasped. Harold, you didn't. His face flushed. I was only acknowledging her independence. She had already made it clear that she didn't need family support. That's not what you meant, and we both know it, I said, surprising myself with how calm I sounded. You've never believed in me or what I've been building. Since the day I left for MIT, you've been waiting for me to fail. Nearby families had begun to watch, recognizing me from the news alerts spreading online. Phones were pointed in our direction, recording the exchange between the newly announced tech CEO and her father. This isn't the place for this, my father said stiffly, noticing the attention. I agree, I replied. Let's go to the restaurant. I reserved a private room. As we walked across campus, my phone buzzed constantly with notifications. Jennifer texted that our stock was trading at $52 a share, well above the IPO price. The market was reacting strongly. At the restaurant, the staff recognized me right away. Congratulations on your IPO, Miss Anderson, the host said, leading us to the private room. Your office sent champagne. A bottle of Dominion sat chilled with a note from my executive team. Once seated, my father wasted no time. So, this is why you've been secretive, planning a big reveal for maximum effect. I've been building a business for 5 years, I replied. The IPO is a milestone, not the ultimate goal. A technology company, he scoffed, built on hype and investor money. Built on solving real security issues, I corrected. We have more than 200 enterprise clients, including 40 Fortune 500 companies. Our encryption is the most advanced available. And you managed all this while supposedly finishing your degree? There was nothing supposed about it, I said, placing my diploma on the table. I completed what I started, despite your doubts. My mother touched his arm gently. Harold, our daughter has achieved something remarkable. Can't you be proud of her? He brushed her hand away. Remarkable. We'll see if the company survives 5 years. Most startups collapse after the IPO. James spoke up unexpectedly. Dad, Secure Connect isn't just another startup. They're the leader in their sector. I looked into them after Sophia was featured in TechCrunch. Their client list is impressive. My father turned to him, clearly displeased. You knew about this? I knew they were successful, James admitted, but not about the IPO. Just then my phone rang. Jennifer again. I excused myself. Sophia, sorry to interrupt your graduation, but CNBC wants you at the office by 2. The interview's at 3. I'll be there, I promised, before returning to the table. I'm sorry, but I need to cut this short. I have media obligations. More important than family lunch? My father demanded. As important as your work has always been, I replied evenly. As CEO, I have responsibilities to shareholders, employees, and clients. Perhaps we can reschedule dinner, my mother suggested. I'll be tied up all day with interviews and meetings. The first day of trading is critical, I explained. Of course, my father said sarcastically. Your little computer program is more important than family. Something in me shifted. Years of doubt and dismissal crystallized into one clear moment. My little program, as you call it, just created over $1 billion in value. It employs 150 people. It safeguards the data of millions. And I built it while you insisted I'd fail. While you invested in my brothers and told me the best I could hope for was answering phones. The room fell silent. I didn't build Secure Connect to prove you wrong, Dad. I built it because I believed in it. But your text today, telling me I was on my own, only confirmed something. I've been on my own since the day I left for MIT. And look what I've achieved without your approval. My mother's eyes filled with tears. My brothers looked stunned. My father opened his mouth, then closed it again. For once, Harold Anderson had nothing to say. I need to leave now, I said more gently. Jennifer has a car waiting. Sophia, my mother began. It's okay, Mom. We'll have dinner tomorrow. You and the boys are welcome to visit the office for a tour. I didn't extend the invitation to my father. I have an early flight, he said stiffly. Business requires my attention. It always does, I replied. As I turned to leave, he called after me. Sophia, I paused. Congratulations on your IPO. It's impressive. Not, I'm proud of you. Not, I was wrong. Just recognition of fact. Thank you, I said. That may be the first real compliment you've given me. Outside, Jennifer greeted me beside the car. There she is, the woman of the hour. We're up 60% from IPO price. The market loves us. Sliding into the car, I glanced back. My father had stepped outside, watching silently. Our eyes met before the car pulled away. I had pictured this moment for years, expecting triumph. Instead, I felt something different. Freedom. Freedom from chasing his approval. Freedom to define myself on my own terms. I was Sophia Anderson, CEO of Secure Connect, now a public company worth over $1 billion. That identity was mine alone. As the car drove toward headquarters, where celebration awaited, I looked at my graduation cap resting on the seat. 2 journeys completed in one day. One chapter closed, another beginning. My phone buzzed with a text from Catherine, my first investor. You proved them all wrong. Now show them what's next. I smiled, focusing forward instead of back. The whirlwind was just beginning. The celebrations with employees left me running on pure adrenaline. I barely slept, still processing the thrill of watching 5 years of work validated so dramatically in the public markets. By the close of trading on day 2, Secure Connect stock had stabilized at $71 per share, giving us a market cap of $1.6 billion. My personal stake, just under 20% after dilution, was worth over $300 million on paper. Lockup restrictions meant I couldn't sell for 6 months, but even beyond that, the wealth felt abstract. What felt far more tangible was the responsibility. 150 employees, thousands of shareholders, and millions of users now depended on our continued success. That evening, after a quick shower and change of clothes, I headed to dinner with my mother and brothers. True to his word, my father had already flown home, unwilling or perhaps unable to confront the reality of his daughter's success. Catching my reflection in the mirror, I noticed how exhausted I looked, yet also changed. Almost as if the events of the past 2 days had physically left their mark. Just then, my phone rang. Catherine, my first investor and mentor, was checking in. How are you holding up? She asked. Honestly, I'm not sure. It still doesn't feel real. It never does at first, she laughed knowingly. But the responsibility feels real right away, doesn't it? Exactly, I agreed. She then asked about my father. The announcement had coincided with my graduation, and she wondered how he'd reacted. I sighed. He congratulated me, but it was more an acknowledgement than genuine pride. Some people struggle when their version of reality is disrupted, Catherine said gently. His story about you was that you'd fail without him. Your success challenges that. I just hoped that deep down he'd want to be proven wrong, I admitted. Give him time. Some people take longer to adjust. Meanwhile, you've got a company to run, she reminded me. After the call, exhaustion caught up with me. The confrontation with my father had left an emptiness in the middle of my victory. I had pushed myself for years, in part to prove him wrong, yet now that I had succeeded in the most public way possible, the triumph felt incomplete. My doorbell rang. My mother and brothers had arrived for dinner. We ate quietly at a small Italian restaurant, far from the financial district. Eventually, my mother asked the question lingering in the air. What happened with your father? When did things become so broken? It was never whole, Mom, I replied. He never believed in me the way he believed in James and Thomas. When I chose my own path, it just confirmed what he already thought. He's proud in his own way, she offered softly. No, he's impressed, but that's not the same as pride. James spoke up then. For what it's worth, Dad has been difficult ever since the IPO. He spent all day calling his advisor to buy shares in your company. I nearly choked. He what? Yeah, James smirked. Apparently, he thinks it's a solid investment. Now, though, he'd never admit that to you. The irony is almost too perfect, I said, shaking my head. Thomas shifted the topic. What will you do now? About Dad, I mean. It was the question I had been asking myself, too. I'm not chasing his approval anymore. That chapter is closed, but I won't cut him off out of spite either. The door stays open, but on my terms. My mother reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You've grown so wise, Sophia, stronger than I ever was. You did your best, Mom, I reassured her. No, she said firmly. I should have defended you more. I let his dismissal of your dreams go unchallenged. We can't change the past, I said gently, but we can choose how to move forward. The next morning, I brought my family to Secure Connect headquarters. The office still buzzed with celebration, though the work never stopped. Employees came by to congratulate me and meet my family. Thomas, looking around the engineering department, admitted, I had no idea it was this substantial. What did you think I was doing all these years? I asked. He shrugged awkwardly. Honestly, Dad made it sound like you were tinkering with a school project. And I believed him. I should have made up my own mind. I'm sorry, Sophia. Later that afternoon, after my family left for the airport, Jennifer found me in my office. As I reviewed post-IPO plans, your father called, she said directly. He asked if you'd consider joining the board of Anderson Building Supply. His exact words were, her business expertise would be valuable to our company. I burst out laughing. After years of dismissing my abilities, he now wanted to benefit from them. What did you tell him? I asked. I said you were in meetings, but that I'd pass along the message. She raised an eyebrow. What should I tell him when he calls back? For a moment, I wanted to refuse outright, to give him the rejection he had so often given me. But the feeling faded, replaced by something more deliberate. Tell him I'd be open to a discussion, I said finally. I spoke about the potential, synergies between our companies, but made it clear that my priority had to remain with Secure Connect, especially during this critical post-IPO phase. Jennifer nodded in agreement, saying she expected nothing less. In the weeks that followed, I adjusted to a new normal. Media attention eventually faded, though I was sometimes recognized on the streets of Boston. The stock price stabilized, our employees returned to routine, and the daily realities of running a public company became my focus. My father never called regarding the board position. Instead, he sent a formal email outlining his proposal, copied to my brothers and our company attorneys. I replied in the same formal tone, declining his offer but suggesting other potential ways for collaboration. What surprised me most after our IPO was how quickly the achievement lost its shine. The validation I had chased for years faded faster than expected. What truly remained important were the relationships built and the impact our technology had on clients who relied on it. 3 months after graduation, I made a decision that surprised many but felt instinctively right. I launched the Secure Connect Foundation, contributing $50 million of my personal shares to establish scholarships for young women pursuing careers in cybersecurity and technology. The first recipient was a talented 19-year-old from rural Georgia, whose father, like mine, believed tech was not a suitable path for his daughter. When I called to tell her about the scholarship, she cried and said, "This changes everything. My entire future just opened up." Her words reminded me of my conversation with Catherine years earlier, when she invested in Secure Connect on the condition that I would one day support another young woman with potential. The cycle of support was continuing, expanding further than either of us imagined. My relationship with my father remained complicated. We communicated mostly through formal channels about potential business ties. He never apologized for his doubts, but he stopped predicting my failure. In his world, that counted as progress. My mother visited often, proud of what I had built. She also expressed regret for not supporting me more during the early years. "I was afraid of upsetting the family," she admitted. "But I see now that harmony built on inequality is not harmony at all." The biggest change, however, was within myself. The drive to prove my father wrong, once my greatest motivator, gradually shifted into something healthier. A desire to prove myself right. To write about the market opportunity, our technology, and the team I had assembled. A year after the IPO, I was invited back to MIT to lecture engineering students on entrepreneurship. Standing at the same podium where I once graduated, I looked out at the eager faces and felt a sense of closure. Success is not about proving others wrong, I told them. That may feel satisfying at first, but true success is proving yourself right. Validating your own vision of what's possible. During the Q&A, a young woman asked, "Did your father ever admit he was wrong about you?" The room fell silent, waiting. "No," I said honestly, "and I no longer need him to." The greatest lesson I learned in building Secure Connect wasn't about technology or strategy, it was about defining success on my own terms, instead of chasing outside validation. As I left the stage to applause, my phone buzzed. A text from my father. "Saw your lecture was live-streamed, well said." No apology, no admission, but in his way, a small step toward understanding. I smiled and put the phone away. My validation no longer came from Harold Anderson. It came from the employees who trusted me with their careers, the clients who entrusted us with their data, and the young women who saw in my story a guide for their own. What did you think of my journey? Have you had to navigate difficult family, relationships while chasing your dreams? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story inspired you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need the reminder that success is possible, even when others doubt your path. Thank you for listening. And remember, the only validation that truly matters is the one you give yourself.